Paradox questions are the ones that ask you, which one of the following, if true, most helps to resolve the apparent paradox above, or the apparent discrepancy above, or the mystery above. Because the question says which one of the following, if true, it's a bottom-up question, right? You're asked to assume that the 5 answer choices are true. So if you ever find yourself getting rid of an answer choice because you're like, hey, this doesn't have to be true, you're thinking about it the wrong way. That's great for some other question types, but that's not good for bottom-up questions. In all bottom-up questions, the question's prompt, the question itself will just say something like, which one of the following, if true, or if valid, or if assumed. In a paradox question, it's almost never the case, although it does happen, it's rarely the case that there's an argument. In the vast majority of cases, what's going to happen is you're going to read the passage, and then you're going to encounter 2 facts that don't seem to go together, right? And for that reason, if you're paying attention, 9 times out of 10, maybe 19 times out of 20, when you encounter a paradox question on the test, you should know that you're on a paradox question before you even read the question, right? You've read the passage and you're like, huh? What? That doesn't make sense. And you can just almost feel them gearing up to ask you, okay, well, which one of the following, if true, most helps to resolve the apparent paradox? They almost always throw in that term apparent because it's not necessarily true that there is a paradox. It's usually there's some sort of an assumption you're making, and one of the answer choices will tease that out. We'll say, but wait, this is true. And then you're like, okay, yeah, maybe it's not such a mystery after all. How do you want to approach these questions? Well, first, like always, just make sure you really understand what you're reading. If you do understand what you're reading, you should be mildly surprised by the apparently conflicting statements, right? So if you're not, if you read the statements, if you read the passage and you're not surprised, and then the question says, which one, if true, most helps to resolve the apparent paradox or mystery, you have to go back and figure out what the mystery is, or what doesn't seem to make sense. Usually there are 2 facts and they're conflicting, and usually you can ask yourself something like, why does X happen even though Y happens? If you can reformulate the passage in that question, then you're also primed and ready to look for the correct answer. Because the correct answer is going to be the one that most effectively answers that why question. So to give you a quick example, let's say that your significant other really hates spiders. Fair enough? They really hate spiders, but wants to go on a tour of the local spider exhibit at the museum. Okay, that's a little paradoxical, right? It doesn't quite make sense. So if I were to reframe that into my why question, I would say, why does my significant other want to go to this exhibit even though he or she really hates spiders? There, that's the why question. I took both facts and I put them into one question, right? If you can formulate that question, then the correct answer is going to be the one that answers why. So correct answer could be something like, my significant other is attempting to overcome her fears. Okay, well, there you go. That could explain why she wants to go to this exhibit.